You're listening to Tim Bulkeley's 5-Minute Bible. A while back I talked about one of Jeremiah's complaints. So, now let's look at the complaint psalms. Labelling them laments began with Bulkeley, the guy who first drew our attention to the way in which it was useful to classify biblical literature according to what sort or kind or genre it was, and who particularly provided us with a whole system of classification for psalms. But the name isn't really quite right. The biblical complaints don't just lament, they complain. Psalm 22 is the most often quoted of them, not least because Jesus quoted its opening words from the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? Notice that the psalm is not merely lamenting that God seems distant, but asking why. Why are you so far from helping me, from the words of my groaning? And expressing the feeling that this suffering is not justified. Verse 2. O my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but find no rest. Notice how appropriate this is for Jesus. This element of complaint, of claiming to God that there is something unfair or wrong in the way things are, is essential to these psalms. They're not prayers for when things are running smoothly. They are for when the world seems out of joint. This ability to take things to the divine complaints department and to lodge a strongly worded complaint is not something primitive in the Old Testament, superseded in the New. Note that when the time was right, which is to say when things were all wrong, Jesus quotes Psalm 22. And if you think that God may object to the apparent lack of trust in these psalms, read Job. Job complained bitterly. Job chapter 10. I loathe my life, and I will give free utterance to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to God, do not condemn me. Let me know why you contend against me. Does it seem good to you to oppress, and to despise the work of your hands, favour the schemes of the wicked? Do you have eyes of flesh? Do you see as humans see? Are your days like the days of mortals, or your years like human years? That you seek out my iniquity, and search for my sin, although you know I'm not guilty, and there is no one to deliver out of your hand. Your hands fashioned and made me, and now you turn and destroy me. Remember that you fashioned me like clay. Will you turn me to dust again? Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh, and knit me together with bones and sinews. You granted me life and steadfast love, and your care has preserved my spirit. Yet these things you hid in your heart. I know that this was your purpose. If I sin, you watch me, and do not acquit me of mine iniquity. If I'm wicked, woe to me. If I'm righteous, I cannot lift up my head, for I am filled with disgrace, and look upon my affliction. Bold as a lion, you hunt me. You repeat your exploits against me. You renew your witnesses against me, and increase your vexation towards me. You bring fresh troops against me. You see, Job doesn't mince his words. Where we stopped isn't the end. He goes on and on. And Job's friends produced all the arguments they could to defend God against Job's accusations. Yet at the end of the book, God says to the friends, you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. So you see, as we begin to look at Psalm 22, a biblical complaint from the book of Psalms, and take a quick look at a bit from Job, the Bible's telling us quite clearly by example and through reporting God's own reaction, complaint is okay. Even strongly worded complaints that challenge God's justice and question the divine love are okay. So, don't be afraid to express your complaints to God. And we'll return to this theme in part 2, and hopefully you won't have to wait as long for part 2 as you have for this bit. God bless.